Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Palace Podcast. I am your host today, Dan Tanner, and today we have a special guest as it's a crossover special all the way from the Arsenal podcast. We have Josh. How you doing, man?
I'm not bad at all, Dan. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty good after last night as well, actually. You know, still riding high.
We're starting with that straight away now, are we? Okay. We're going straight in for the gut punch.
Don't worry, my mood will change as we get onto the predictions, trust me.
Right, so yeah, today we're just going to go sort of little look over the last few months because it is coming up to the halfway point of the season. So a little bit of a look back, little bit of a analysis, and a bit of look back on how our respective clubs have been doing. And then, as we mentioned a minute ago, we'll talk about last night's game, which I did the preview for it yesterday, and it didn't exactly go as well as I thought it would do.
Nearly did.
Nearly. And then finally, we'll talk about essentially round two of the Arsenal Palace, and now talk about the weekend fixture and if that's going to be any different. So let's dive straight in with. So, how would you assess Arsenal over the last few months? As now you've been actually talking about it pretty much daily since the summer.
Yeah, it's been a lot to keep up with. Thankfully, Arsenal haven't disappointed us. We've had plenty to talk about, be it massive injuries to key players, losing important games, drawing silly games like this game at City. It's been very, considering that we're in third, and this is rich coming from an Arsenal fan, admittedly, because I know we're in third, and I know we can't really, but it's been a very up and down season all year, and especially the last couple of weeks, it's been the heights of Monaco, and then Fulham and Everton, and then the heights of against Palace last. Oh, sorry. So it's
wait at least a few minutes.
Okay, but we have actually banned the talk of the title at the moment on our podcast because it's been such a weird season in the Premier League. I mean, do you feel that way as well? Because we've been watching it from our perspective and looking at all the results all over the place. It's been bonkers. Like even where Palace are, I thought you'd be mid-table Europe challenging at this point of the season.
This is what everybody, when we have the crossover, is always surprised by, that we're so far down. But in the Palace podcast, for one or two of us that are actually long-time Palace fans, we are not surprised in the slightest. We have this great habit of starting off really slow and just really sort of methodically slowly move up the table. We'll just suddenly start hitting some form right about February or something when everybody else is starting to hit injury things and things like that. And we'll just slowly get a couple of good results in. So, but yeah, it didn't start off brilliantly for us. We had awful first, I think the first win didn't come until like October. So,
yeah, I mean,
it was
oh my word. Yeah. I did enjoy that one though. I did enjoy that one. So what was the 27th of October? That was your first Prem win.
First win, and we got, I think, first point, was against Chelsea.
Yeah,
about the third or fourth game in, but we had but if you look at the results, they're all like 1-0. We were just very, very passive when it came to sort of almost any opponent until for some reason against Newcastle, we suddenly switched it on and became a lot more sort of aggressive and a lot more dominant.
Yeah, and you got the draw there, didn't you? Was it at home as well?
At home, yes. They somehow got a goal without actually taking a shot.
They didn't have a shot all game.
Didn't have a shot on target. It was a Gagey own goal, and that's a classic Palace way of getting a draw.
But also, I mean, we've got to say, it's been a rough ride for you so far. I'm just looking at your results, though. The most recent one, Brighton, away at Brighton, 3-1. That's...
Yeah. I was riding high on that one. I was glued to my phone and on a Twitter account. I've got to get this out now. I've got to get it out now.
Word. That's a result that, as an Arsenal fan, I'd be over the moon with, especially if you're struggling, because you're 15th at the moment, I think, aren't you?
We're slowly moving out of the relegation fight, but it doesn't take a lot to get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, I have to ask this of you as a Palace fan from the Arsenal perspective. Oliver Glazner, where are you? Because I know that every Palace fan is like, he'll save us, he's the Antichrist. Like, there seems to be a complete differential. Where do you sit on the Glazner conversation?
Well, with Palace fans, it's usually if you're winning, we like you. If you were losing, we don't like you. It's that simple. It's very, very simplistic as that. Like, I would love to try and keep him as long as possible because I know if he gets sacked, we're only going to get Roy Hodgson again. So we sacked Vieira and brought back Roy Hodgson, who we sacked to get Vieira. So
he's like your little Bainley Hodgson. You just can't quite get rid of it.
He's a Croydon boy, but it's just like every single time we sack a manager, he's the first one on the list, and I don't know why. I really don't know why.
Well, he said no more now, hasn't he?
Well, we'll see about that. He said that last time too.
I mean, I do also have to ask you, like the Glazner thing I was really interested in. But also, Eddie Nketiah. Now, for years, I've been saying Palace would be the perfect club for him. I thought he's exactly the right sort of type of striker to fit your club. Not really hit the ground running, has he?
No, not really, because I've got friends and relations that are Arsenal fans, and they've been very much saying the same kind of thing because they've been trying to essentially flog him off for several years now.
Oh yeah.
And, because you've got far too many. You're looking at world class players. You don't need a sort of bench warmer that would just come on for. No, you need to replace a world class player for a world class player. So, which to all expensive. No offense to Nketiah, he is not. But he should fit our system quite well. But the problem is, I think he's not sure where to actually put him.
Yeah.
Because we kind of do this counter-attacking football. And it's either, as one of the goals yesterday, was literally route one football straight down the middle.
Yes.
And Nketiah's just getting, because he does the little runs at players and things like that, he almost runs into people and just gets bullied off the ball.
Yeah.
Unlike Eze, that will trying to go around them or at least have a little bit of strength to kind of hold them off a little bit. Nketiah kind of doesn't do that. He's very deadly in like the 18-yard box, but when we don't get into the 18-yard box very often,
yeah, then it's
also doesn't help.
When you're limiting his actual exposure on the ball, then it was very much the same as Arsenal. Another quick question: how attached are you to Eze, and would you be fine if you sold him to Arsenal in January? Because I'd quite like him.
I would like to keep him as long as possible. That's my worry in January, that we're going to lose probably two of our star players in very, very quick succession. If not in January, will be the summer. I seem to read somewhere a couple of months ago that there's a verbal agreement with Eze that at the end of the season he can go off somewhere. I think Spurs seem to be. This is a rumor, by the way, so I don't know how much you can actually put that in, but it's probably the same kind of deal that Palace had with Elise last season was, can you just hang out one more season and then you can go from there? We won't hold back, but we want to try and get a decent price for you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knew how good Elise was, but my word, how important did he turn out to be for you guys?
Oh, yeah, but we've been talking about this on the Palace podcast, so we are almost a two-man team 9 times out of 10. This is why sort of like Sarr coming through at the moment has been such a revelation that he's actually become the guy on form. Yeah. We weren't overly confident of him when he was signed at the end of the summer window. He's like, when he gets good, he can do a job for you, but most of the time he's just going to be kind of there and thereabouts, not really contributing all that much. But in the last couple of games, definitely, he's the guy on form at the moment.
Yeah, he scares me. He scares me a lot. I was glad to see him come off yesterday, let's put it that way.
Right. Let's just take a little quick break here to thank our lovely provider here at Zencaster. And then after that, we'll kind of talk about yesterday's game and how badly I was wrong. Okay.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencaster came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster.
And we're back with the Daily Palace podcast, and we're still here for the crossover with Josh. So we're going to now talk about the League Cup game that happened last night, where I was very, very wrong about what was going to happen.
What a curiosity, Dan, what was your prediction for the game?
Both me and Alex for the podcast, we both said 2-1, but we thought it was going to be very much go the distance. We were even kind of trying to remember if it would go to penalties or if there was extra time. So we thought it would go the distance and it would be sort of very, very dogged, which we were very surprised that, oh, look, we score in the first 4 minutes.
Yeah, so were we.
Dean Henderson, route one. I was looking at my phone. I was like, Dean Henderson got an assist. Hang on a minute. That's got to be route one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Goalies don't get assists very often.
I was watching it. It was some of the worst defending I've ever seen from our young man Kivior. I mean, he's definitely. Obviously, we didn't start our two key centre backs. Like gave Saliba and Gabriel a rest, which was much needed. And Kivior decided to ball watch, throw his head at the ball about half a minute too early, and then just get pushed off the ball by Jean-Philippe Mateta, who is, by the way, a phenomenal player. Like
he can be when he gets a chance. He can be really like he's going to push over defenders. He's not going to like shrivel away. He got that kind of what I would call Drogba style of I've got the ball, you've got to come and get it.
That is a good comparison, actually. He's not entirely dissimilar to that sort of Drogba mould of a player. He's got the intelligence to watch for when the ball's coming, but the strength and the speed as well to actually be able to physically do it. Yeah, we have another Josh on the Arsenal podcast who despises Kai Havertz and would snap anybody's fingers off to take Mateta instead of Kai Havertz up front for us.
I kind of rate Kai Havertz. He's like, from that, as I said in the podcast the other day, was for that Chelsea fire sale they had when they didn't make the Champions League. I think he was probably the best buy you could have got. You've got a world-class player that can play multiple positions, but the problem is he's very much if he feels like doing it, he can be really deadly. If not, he's just going to stand there like a lemon.
Absolutely, and don't worry, that's not all of us. It's just one Josh.
I know.
The rest of us love him.
I've got mates where I have to try and convince him like Kai Havertz is actually good.
He's a really good player.
Exactly.
He's not a natural finisher, but he's been put in the number 9 position. But people are expecting the wrong things of him. He's kind of, the way that I look at him is more of a Firmino in the old Salah, Mane, Firmino sort of build up. He's that player that feeds the dance as opposed to is the star dancer in the middle.
But I couldn't agree with you more. We also got to bring up Jesus, who suddenly turned into a world-class centre forward.
Yes, I mean, look, Jesus comes out at Christmas time, and
I know.
Jesus certainly did. I mean, none of us expected that. We were all on the group chat. All of us were just like mouths open. What the hell is going on? How has Jesus got a hat trick? It was his first goal at the Emirates in a year and a day, and then he scores 3. It was absolutely ludicrous, and they were good goals as well. He finally found his form, and to be honest, against a Palace team, like I say, with the Brighton result, riding high. Like I thought when you got the first goal. The way that you were playing in the first half, we were so ineffectual in the first half. I genuinely thought you could have gone in 2, possibly up, if there'd just been a little bit more forward impotence from your team. Yeah,
very much the idea of, we've got the first goal, let's try and hold as much as possible, which is very much the Palace way of doing things, unless there is the license to go forward, like when we're playing against Brighton or playing against Newcastle, where there was just a freedom to go forward. But we were also missing 1 or 2 of our sort of like creative players. So we didn't have Muñez going down the right. So we were missing a couple of what you would consider key players.
Mm-hmm.
But watching it, we did hold out fairly well. It's just after the second the half-time interval, suddenly there was a fire lit under Arsenal, and they were just like, right, we're going to do this now.
Yeah,
right, we're done here.
I found it really interesting that Palace, despite the 1-goal lead, continued to play some really expansive football. Because if you're playing against Arsenal, it's well known that if you want to frustrate them, you sit back and you hit them on the break. Whereas there was a lot of open space in the midfield. especially in behind and that sort of gap between the back line and the midfield area, where Ødegaard was just drifting into and then had all the time in the world to ping balls left, right, and centre. And I didn't see Palace compacting at all, really, at any point in that game. Like, is that sort of regular? Does that happen quite often for Palace?
Usually not. We're normally a lot better at that, especially when we played City. We made sure to close down that midfield a lot more.
Yeah.
I just sort of think that Ødegaard was just a lot freer, can move around the ball a lot more. He's a little bit more creative than, say, probably the City guys at the moment. They used to be really good, but, they've started to get on a little bit now, and they're a little bit more structured than they probably used to be. But yeah, we're normally slightly better than that, but we do have a great problem of having big gaps between the midfield and the defenders, because we also play this like 2 defensive midfielder system as well. So there's also a point where there is no actual midfield when we try and do a counter attack.
Yeah.
So it's up to Eze or Sarr or Nketiah to try and pick the ball up and try and run by themselves against 3 or 4 opposition defenders. So
it's been quite a lot on them, isn't it?
Exactly. It's
especially because, like, you've had a few injuries. Like, Will Hughes is sort of your main man in there at the moment, isn't he?
At the moment, yeah.
Yeah, because who's the youngster that everyone was excited about who got an English
Wharton. He's out until at least February now because he had a groin injury and then surgery. He was supposed to be back, I think, a couple of weeks ago, but it's now been pushed back to some point in February.
Wow.
And then it's the recovery point, so it's playing in the reserves for a couple of weeks to get back up to match fitness. So probably won't see him earliest late February, early March.
In terms of, have you got many injuries, including that at the moment, or is it just a couple of key ones?
Ours are only small ones at the moment. We've got Riyadh is a defender we signed in at the beginning of the season and got injured in the first game.
Yeah.
He had a thigh injury and basically went down for about 2 or 3 months. He started coming back. I think he played in the under-21s a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Eze, I think, has a minor foot problem, so I don't think he played yesterday. And we've got, I think it's only Munoz, but that's a 5-game suspension. So we don't have too many.
That's pretty good.
We did have one a couple of a month or so ago when a lot of players were out.
Yeah. It seems to be a real pattern at the moment around a lot of teams, like this issue around. I mean, our left back, we bought so many defenders and we've got none fit. I mean, we played Kieran Tierney against you yesterday. His first game for us in a year and a half.
I was asking this to a mate of mine. Why isn't Tierney playing?
We don't know.
Last week against, you put in a 18-year-old midfielder when you have an out-and-out left back sitting on the bench that's well known to be at least a world-class player or crosser, free kick taker, and he's sitting on the bench. Why isn't Tierney playing?
Now, Miles Lewis-Skelly is a very good player who needs some minutes.
No, I'm not disputing that in any way, shape, or form. But
you're very right. You're very right.
My football manager brain is going, why is he not playing?
We have no idea.
There's got to be some reason.
Honestly, we're a little bit stumped ourselves. He's not the best at keeping the ball, but when he attacks, I mean, even yesterday in the game, you could see the energy that he was going with and his whipping in of the balls, which we haven't seen in so long, because Calafiori goes for a slightly more looped, deeper ball, whereas he gets a proper, nasty little whip on the balls that he sends in. But what I found really disappointing, actually, is that this morning, so we're recording this on Thursday, for Friday, this morning, the club has said they're not going to renew his contract. That this is it. This is his last year. After he's finally played for us and he's played well, that's the moment they say, nah, you're all right, mate.
Yeah, he's up for sale in January. So if you come and get him, if you want him, come and get him.
He'll be on a free. He'll be on a free.
We need a left back, so we'll take him.
Who's yours? Tyreek Mitchell, right?
You have one, essentially, yes.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah. You know. What about Jeff? Oh my God, you got Jeffrey Schlupp.
We still have, but he basically is a wild card. We put him in anywhere except in goal. He'll probably take it. If you ask him to go in goal, he'll quite happily go, yep, no worries, Gaffer, put the gloves on, he'll go and do it.
Mate, I mean, it wasn't, yesterday wasn't all bad for you guys. Like, you played well. You played really, really well, defended well in the second half as well. And also, I mean, Nketiah scored the best goal I've ever seen him score against
I've never
us.
seen him score a header.
No.
I watched the highlights a little while ago and I went, he scored a header. How did he do that?
From the penalty spot.
Yeah.
The neck muscles involved in that goal. He's never scored anything like that at the Emirates before. He was with us for 7 bloody years and he couldn't do anything like that.
He barely passed. He barely got, I think he got a handful of goals whenever he was on, but it's like 10, when you only get like 10, 15 minutes of time, I think you can't really expect a lot.
Yeah, that was very much
the last 5 minutes, just trots on. We're going to take off whoever centre forward you have at the point.
Marwan Shamak or someone like that.
Or something, yeah. Divine's been coming off for a while.
Did Shamak go to you?
Yep.
Oh my God.
We had him for about a year or so, and I don't think he did anything there either.
Oh, he was one of the worst strikers I've ever seen in my life. And we had Nicholas Bentner.
Bendy, he was fun. He was a great laugh. He was mad.
He was Lord Bentner, as he is.
Oh, yes, he's a lord, isn't he?
He is a lord. Yes, he's a lord. He has a square foot of land in Scotland. He is Lord Bentner.
Right. Is there anything else we want to talk about from yesterday? Just because it was kind of what you would consider a second string team. It wasn't quite full strength.
Yeah. This is what I would say about it. And we did a little sort of like late night review last night, which came out today. What we realised about 50, 60 minutes in is that Palace took all their star players off. Whereas, to win the game, we had to put ours on. And there was just something that I found a little bit concerning about that, putting them in that danger zone from Arteta necessarily. Like, the EFL Cup is important, it's a cup. But at the same time, his having to resort to those first team players, our depth isn't very good, which is what became clear. Whereas Glazner was comfortable making those switches for Palace. Like, he trusts his players more, I got the impression.
Maybe, but you've also got to remember that your second string is still probably better than most second strings in the league. So
that is true.
Your second string is still full of full internationals, world-class players that have played European football. Ours are whoever we've got.
That's it, Dan. Keep going. It's lovely to hear.
But even so, we took the game to you, which is more what I'm sort of taking from that. It was the full game. We even got a goal at the beginning of the game and one at the end. So,
and you threatened as well throughout. There was the threat from the counter was always there. Saliba, when he came on, he shut Mateta down. Mateta didn't really have a sniff after that again. Like, Saliba was the key difference there. But you're dangerous. Palace are dangerous. Never comfortable whenever we play Palace. I don't like it.
I have the same thing with my Liverpool fans. They always hate playing Palace. Mates, they just, when's the Palace game? It's the end of the season. Oh, great, we may have to actually play them for the title.
Yeah, and now we have to play you again on Saturday.
Yep. In a couple of days. This is going to be fun.
At yours as well.
Brilliant. Yep. And that's a brilliant segue to move into our next bit just after this quick break from our network.
This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
And we're back for the final section of this the Daily Palace crossover with Arsenal. So we've just been talking about yesterday's game. So now let's talk about the weekend game, round 2 of Arsenal versus Palace. So what are we thinking about for the weekend then? How we think this is going to go?
Well, I mean, there's one enormous difference. Well, actually, no, there's two enormous differences straight away. First of all, it's a Premier League game. And I feel as though Josh yesterday was saying that when it comes to Premier League games and League Cup games, there is a different energy and a different style. I imagine that Palace will be much more compact. You guys will be much more compact tomorrow afternoon. And also, it's at Selhurst Park. That cannot be overstated. Selhurst Park is one of, if not the worst stadiums to go to as an away team. Like, it is renowned. It's up there with Anfield and St James's as arguably the worst pitch to go and play at in terms of an uncomfortable atmosphere, and that makes such a difference.
Yeah, we're right on top of you, like at the Emirates. Because I've been there, so there is a gap between the players, the pitch, and the fans. At Selhurst Park, it's literally about a foot, maybe two, if that, and it's so. But we're just rowdy. We're South Londoners. We are just rowdy as a people. Really, we don't give a monkeys.
That's true. Yeah.
Like the first real British ultras as well. We're nothing compared to say the ones on the continent or anything, but we do make ourselves very loud. Because I was also watching, saw on Twitter there was a video of the Palace fans at the Emirates where they're just still chanting when they're losing. We're just loud. We're obnoxious.
Whereas everybody at the Emirates is apparently posh and rich and
just very, very, very dirt quiet. It can be. I've been to the Emirates in European games, and you could hear a pin drop from the Arsenal side.
It's better than the Etihad.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. We're better than the Etihad, which is just down the road from where I live. So sod them. So how are you feeling about this upcoming game?
When we saw the schedule and when we saw the nasty 3 weeks, I wasn't overly confident. But now that it's coming to the end of it, and we've actually got 5 points out of the 3 or 4 games. We won. Yeah, it was.
Oh my God, December, beat Ipswich, drew with City, beat Brighton.
And now that was our 3 weeks before Christmas. And I saw that and I was thinking we were probably only going to get something off of Ipswich and maybe Brighton. But we've got one off of Ipswich, Brighton, and we got City. And we have a fairly decent record when it comes to the so-called top 6 in general. And in this season, I think we've only lost to Liverpool so far. So we drew with Chelsea, drew with City, beat Liverpool, and we drew with United.
Yeah, so, lost to Brentford, West Ham, Everton, Liverpool, Forest. Oh, and Fulham are doing everyone, though. Fulham are screwing everybody over at the moment.
Fulham's a wild card at the moment, yeah.
They're just mad. And also, after Arsenal, you've got Bournemouth as well. That's not an easy game at the moment. They're playing out of their skin.
They're playing really well for essentially a team that's come... Now, they survived last year, didn't they? But they've... come back from the Championship very strong over the last couple of years, and they are not pushovers anymore.
So as you've got 7 points from the first 3 games in December, do you kind of see this one as a bit of a free hit, or are you more ambitious than that?
I'm a little bit more ambitious now, because when, as I said at the beginning of it, I wasn't looking forward to this, because we've been talking about it through beginning of November and maybe a bit of October, when this is going to be the bit, because we always get a nasty Christmas.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking forward to it then, but now I'm a little bit more confident. If we can walk away with a point from this, I'll be absolutely ecstatic. So it's more that at the moment is trying to get out of this tiny relegation fight that we've got ourselves into, and just to slightly move away from that.
Yeah.
And slowly creep our way back up the table just to be a little bit more sort of secure, because I don't really want to be having to have this conversation in a couple of months' time where, we might be looking at a relegation, guys. Come on, let's keep the spirits up.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, to be honest, playing at Selhurst Park, I know that we're meant to be in a title fight. We're not really at the moment. I'll be honest with you. We need Liverpool to really slip, and we need to up our game. At Selhurst Park, I wouldn't be unhappy with the point. It is one of those places where you go, and if you walk away with something, then it's fine. That's quite all right. I'd be very happy with that. It's not what I'm predicting, but I'd be happy with it.
We'll see your prediction in a minute. So you think you're going to probably put out more of a first string team to try and actually secure the points and try and get a good win before Christmas, just to try and keep up with, essentially the rivals, and make sure you keep in touch with Liverpool, but try and get a bit of a gap from City?
100%. The team that he put out last night was a bit of a mix. I mean, Partey at right back does not work. He needs to stop doing it. We've spoken about this so many times. Just needs to get rid of Thomas Partey. He's rubbish. Timber will start. Marino will probably start. And that is, of that, blimey, yeah, of that team, that's, well, no. The big question is, who is he going to start up front? Because Saka's going to start, Martinelli will start, Odegaard, Rice will start if he's fit. You'll have Gabriel, you'll have Saliba. Left back, depends if Calafiori's fit again, so it'll probably be Miles Lewis-Skelly again, the youngster, or he'll give Tierney another go. We're not sure, but it's who starts centre forward. And I think after a hat trick, it's going to be hard to not start him. But then again, it's the same team. It's the team that's just played against him. The defenders have just seen how he plays. He might want to mix up a little bit. So I can see him starting Havertz and maybe bringing Jesus on 60 minutes-ish. When we look at your team, it looks quite strong.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, who do you think are the Palace players that might give you sort of some problems? Like the key players at Palace, who do you think would be the...
Immediately, it's Eze, Matete, and Sarr, because Eze's a player I'd love at Arsenal, because to have alongside an Odegaard, I think they'd annihilate any defence that they came up against. Matete is such a good, strong forward as well. I also like Kamada. Kamada's Kamada,
he can be really good. We've had him once or twice. He's still kind of settling into English football, but
he's a good player.
Just sometimes it happens with sort of like Japanese players. They sometimes take a little bit longer to get used to sort of the style of the English game.
They do, yeah. But I mean, he's a quality player, and I can see him doing a real good job for you. Shalabah was getting into some really dangerous positions as well. Like, is it three at the back your standard formation with Glazner?
We play a kind of a 3, 2 wing backs, 2 defensive midfielders, and then there's, I think, 2 kind of floating attackers, like wingers, and then 1 up front, I think is how it works. Yeah, and then maybe 1 in the middle there somewhere, but it's a very predominantly defensive-minded formation to hit on the counter-attack.
With Saka and Martinelli playing, which is I imagine he'll start, I don't think that'll be as much of a worry for us. But going through the middle, Eze scares the living daylights out of me. What about you for Arsenal? Because our team's going to be very different to the one that started yesterday.
Oh, I probably do the same one I did yesterday because I thought he was going to start would probably be Odegaard. I always pick the playmakers. If a playmaker is on his game, they basically dictate how the game can go around. So if he's given free run to do what he wants, him and Saka can link up really quite handily. Martinelli can get into some really annoying positions because we do have a great habit of that. Right wing of ours was a bit of a problem for a while, sort of like that right back position, because we have these great holes where like they can do through balls and stuff through. So which is kind of Martinelli's like hunting ground, really.
That's his bread and butter,
yeah, that's where he wants to be. So it could be quite nasty. Muniz, if I think he's still active, I'm not sure because there was 5 yellows. He might be available. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But either way, that could be quite an irritating spot. Either Martinelli or even Trossard, if he comes on at some point, can be quite deadly in that position when he wants to be. But
useless.
Oh, you don't like him, do you?
Every member of the Daily Arsenal podcast has one Arsenal player they can't stand, and mine is Leandro Trossard. I don't know what it is. It's not even particularly based in fact. I just can't stand him.
It's just guys you just don't like. You just don't look at him and go, nah, don't like him. That's
exactly right. Exactly right, Dan. Have you got any of those for Palace? Is there any player that you can't stand in the Palace team?
Not really at the moment. Ours is kind of because our team changes so regularly, so they don't usually hang around long enough to.
That's understandable. I'll give you that.
We don't have sort of long-standing like players that will be there for a while. It's usually there for 2, maybe 3 years, and then we forget. We go, oh, I remember he was supposed to be playing. He's been out for ages, or oh yeah, we have. Like you said earlier, we schlop.
Yeah, where's Edouard gone? By the way.
Oh, last time I heard, he was at Leicester on loan, and Leicester wanted to send him back because he wasn't doing anything. And Palace said, "No, you keep him you've got him for the season. That's it."
God, he was such a promising because he came from Celtic, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like he was good in Celtic. Well, we've had this before. We've had Benteke. We get these guys that were good at some place, and then we get them and then completely and utterly ruin them.
I wonder what
they
that
can't
is.
handle. Yeah, we get these guys a lot. So
Wrong side of the river, clearly.
well, I don't think you would have done any better at Arsenal. You don't do power forwards. You do silky smooth.
That is very true. I'll take that.
You don't get these run down the middle and just power the way through. No, you've got to do pass
Patrick
it around
Vieira.
3 times.
Patrick Vieira was one of those. It was a while ago, but he was one of those.
In the middle, right up front.
Olivier Giroud. There you go.
He had a great habit against scoring against Palace. Oh my god!
He was one of my favourite Arsenal players. Was Olivier Giroud? I absolutely adored him.
Yeah, my Arsenal mates used to call him Action Man because of his haircut.
Yeah, that was quite well done. Though.
Yeah. To finish up, should we do a quick sort of score predictions? So, what do you think the score is going to be?
Okay, we scored more than I expected us to score last night. We're looking more fluid. Martin Ødegaard looks like he's on a mission. And if Timber starts at right back and is the inverting defender, then we'll annihilate you, I think. So, yeah. But it needs all of those things to work. It needs Timber at right back, inverting, with Ødegaard on the form he was on last night. So I'm going to say 3-0 Arsenal.
All right.
But Selhurst Park still scares me, and my head is saying 1-1.
Well, I was going to go with a 2-2 because I think it's going to be very much like the City game, or even a little bit like yesterday, where we score early.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be the whole game, and it's going to go from one end to the other. Be very, very everything is going to be just backwards and forwards, and it's going to just take the full 90, probably even a little bit of the 10 minutes of stoppage time we seem to be getting in the Premiership now.
Yeah.
So you've got to play for the full 90, 100 minutes now. So that's my prediction, that we score early, and then basically then you come back, then 2-1, and then we get one right at the death or something like the 80-something minute.
And Nketiah again with another header.
And Nketiah's gone, right, I've done it at the Emirates, now I'm going to do it at Selhurst, just to stick a finger up once and for all. You could have had this.
We did have it. He never did it.
He didn't do anything.
No, that's a good shout, to be fair. That's a good shout. Like I say, my head's really 1-1. Yeah.
Yeah, I very much think a bit more positive, I think, with my predictions now, especially that we're starting to get a little bit be less passive in the games and actually attacking from time to time instead of just completely relying on Eze shooting it from 35 yards out. We're actually working the ball into the box, getting some decent crosses in. So that's why I'm just a little bit more positive about it now.
Positivity is the ultimate killer, my friend.
The British mentality.
Absolutely.
Something's good, something's going to go bad very, very quickly. But
we can't both be positive. We have to both be negative, and it'll be perfect.
And on that note, I'd like to thank Josh here from the Daily Arsenal podcast for joining me on this crossover for round 2. I have round 3 tomorrow. I get to talk about it on the Palace podcast too. So
must be tired of Arsenal by now.
You'd be surprised. So on that note, I'd like to end it there. So if you're listening this far, thank you very much. If you could give us a 5-star, because it helps us get noticed. You give your Uber driver 5-star if they've got. So you can do it for us as well. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us get noticed. And also check out the Daily Arsenal podcast as well, because I'm assuming you have a lot of fun down there too.
We do have a good old laugh on the Daily Arsenal podcast. Mostly arguments about Kai Havertz and bald people, and that's it. Yep.
Right. So until then, see you next time.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.